in high definition. This is KCAL9 News at noon.
And our continuing coverage of Space Shuttle Endeavour's arrival in Los Angeles continues here this afternoon as we look at a picture of Endeavour above that 747. Beautiful picture, isn't it?
Oh boy, it's just gorgeous. This is from NASA. Of course, we were telling you that the Space Shuttle Endeavour piggybacking on the back of that 747. It's expected to land in just a few moments, but it now has been delayed about 10 minutes, so 12:40 arrival time is what we're expecting.
Kent Shocknick, you've been covering the NASA shuttle program for a long time. I don't want to give how many years.
Since before the very first launch. And when you think about it, we are watching here space history being made because this is the last time ever that a space shuttle will be flying in to land at Edwards Air Force Base. Now, normally they announce themselves with that twin sonic boom when they glide in after a big long mission. Not the case this time, but this is the youngest space shuttle, the last in the fleet, and the last time ever that one will land at Edwards Air Force Base. It'll take off tomorrow, but it's not coming back.
And you got to believe that had a lot to do with the decision to bring Endeavour back here. Since it was born here, fitting that Endeavour should be the one to come home.
This has to be such a proud day for the folks in Palmdale up in the high desert. I mean, think of the history with them starting with the very first space shuttle in the mid-1970s when Enterprise was announced. And it was never intended to fly into orbit. It was meant to piggyback on the top of this 747, just like Endeavour is right now. And then they used it for drop tests. And folks in the high desert saw that happening a dozen times. They saw the shuttle roll out from Plant 42, the big then Rockwell, now Boeing plant up there on Palmdale's Avenue P. They are really intrinsically linked to this big space plane that was so revolutionary in its time.
We know so many people are excited about its arrival today. Many cities campaign to get a space shuttle. Los Angeles will get one. It arrives in just a few moments. Let's go out to our Dave Lopez. He's standing by at Edwards Air Force Base where the shuttle's going to touch down on that 747 in just a few minutes, Dave.
Well, we're hearing a 12:40 flyover. We've been telling you all morning that it's sort of a surprise. They are going to do a salute to the people who worked on this space program that lived out here in this desert community of Lancaster, Rosamond, and there will be a flyover, we are told, and then the shuttle will make a big loop, if you will, and come in from the east and make its landing. Now, you may see a few people as the camera pans over. Those are invited guests from people who work out here. They are employees in and around the base, I am told, and as soon as I finish with this little update, we have a camera position that is almost exactly on the runway. Not quite, but I think if I reached out, I might be able to touch the wing as it went by. At least that's how close we seem. So we will be moving positions in just a second. But there's great anticipation here. It is extremely hot, very remote. I have covered a couple of landings out here before, but I forgot just how open this is and how wide it is and how absolutely in the middle of nowhere it is. Nowhere for a great adventure, history in the making. The Endeavour is coming home for the last time. The eighth landing here. It's been back home here 7 times from its previous missions, 18 other landings at the Kennedy Space Center, 25 missions in all. But number 8 is going to be the final one on the back of a 747, and we should be able to see it when it makes that flyover. And of course, we'll give you the heads up and the thumbs up and keep it right here. We're going to give you the best shot possible. So for now, I'm Dave Lopez reporting live from Edwards Air Force Base. Back to you.
All right, Dave, and we're talking about how fitting it is that the first flyover here in California should take place for the folks in Palmdale, or at least in the Southern California area. For the folks in Palmdale, they, as Kent was saying earlier, all worked so hard on this. I lived at Edwards Air Force Base for a few years in my youth, and can tell you that the folks who live around the Palmdale, Lancaster area take great pride in this thing.
With so much reason, too, Dave, and you think about it, and you lived through it, too, in the mid-70s when Enterprise was first named Enterprise, not Endeavour, the very first of the space shuttles. Originally, they were going to call it Constitution, but then all of those fans of the original Star Trek TV show weighed in and waged a letter-writing campaign to President Ford and said, please call it the Enterprise. Darned if they didn't when they rolled it out from the Plant 42 hangar doors in 1976, and most of the Star Trek cast was there. And Star Trek cast member Nichelle Nichols, Lieutenant Uhura, went on to be a good recruiter for NASA, recruiting astronauts, especially female astronauts, who were inspired by her role on Star Trek.
The Trekkies love that. Endeavour was named after a national competition among school children. So I'm sure some of those children all grown up now and watching proudly today as well.
Made from spares after the explosion of Space Shuttle Challenger on the 25th shuttle mission. It was decided to make one more space shuttle, and there was the question, would Enterprise Enterprise be retrofitted to be able to go into space. They said that would be too expensive. Rockwell said, hey, NASA, we'll give you 2 for 1. And Rockwell said that would be too expensive as well, so they used spares sitting on the shelf from other shuttle parts to build Endeavour, the newest of the space shuttle fleet. And Sandra, you were talking about its naming. They decided to use the British naming, Endeavour, with the U at the end, and that's always caused some confusion. It even confused NASA at one point when about 5 years ago at the Kennedy Space Center, they misspelled the name of their own spaceship at the launch pad 39 at the Kennedy Space Center.
Dave Lopez was talking about he might be able to reach out and touch the wings. We know it has a 78-foot wingspan. This is a big aircraft.
Yeah, I mean, take a look. It's not at all dwarfed by the huge 747. If you were to look at the Endeavour on top of that Big Bird 747, you'd say it's about the size of a small jetliner, a DC-9 or something that you might take between, say, Southern and Northern California. We can't see the space shuttle's main engines, the 3 main engines on the back there. They've been covered by that aerodynamic fairing to make the shuttle be able to glide more smoothly through space atop that big 747.
You can see the 747 has also had some retrofitting done to it. It looks like the horizontal stabilizers or rather the verticals added to that rear horizontal.
They did
the
that.
Back end tail section.
Yeah,
there.
Specifically because of the stability of the aircraft was severely compromised. I mean, you know, a 747 is used to carrying people on the inside, not another big airplane on the outside. And as it gets closer, I think one of the interesting things that we're seeing right here, Endeavour is not clean and pristine. I mean, it's not the way it was when they rolled it out those years ago in the high desert. But you know what? I suppose 123 million miles on the odometer, that'll do that to a vehicle.
Yeah,
yeah, it's been around the world several times, around the moon. 25 missions, made its debut in 1992. So it does have some miles on it. I'm sure they're going to put it in that hangar out at LAX. They're going to clean it up before it goes on display there at the Science Center and Exposition Park. And it's going to be there for a few weeks, not rolling through the streets until October 12th. So they'll have some time to shine it up.
Cleaning it up will be its own tricky task because the space shuttle has all of those thermal protection tiles, the TPS system, to protect it from burning on re-entry. You can't really make them out just yet, but you will be able to see them at the black nose of Endeavour. They've got the most heat-resistant tiles, and those tiles, they're about the size of a brick, which is fine, but they're just a fraction of the weight, and all it would take would be one worker's thumb indenting it too hard to make it completely useless, and that was one of the reasons the shuttle program initially was delayed. The first shuttle flight was supposed to be 1979. It didn't happen until 1981 because these tiles were so finicky, it would take one worker, one day, to put on one tile at a cost of about $1,000, and there were 30,000 of these tiles on the bottom of each shuttle, every one measured with a micrometer. The fit and finish had to be perfect. And remember when they first flew Columbia, the first operational space shuttle back from Edwards Air Force Base to Kennedy Space Center, it had some of the tiles come off, and so that caused new consternation. And those tiles have been a pain in the neck for the engineers since the day they were invented.
Yeah, we always hear on takeoff of the shuttles in the past about they're concerned about the tiles and losing tiles and whether that will have an effect on re-entry. So interesting to find out that they are so fragile.
Of course, the fun part for a lot of folks comes when this thing finally sets down at LAX, and then weeks later it's going to be rolled out onto the streets of Los Angeles. And you were talking earlier, Kent, about some of the locations where they had to take down a lot of the trees, and a lot of folks are upset about that.
Yeah, cities have promised in Inglewood and Los Angeles they will replace the trees sawn down at a 4-to-1 ratio. And that's fine. Perhaps there'll be more green in the future. But, you know, with that wingspan of 78 feet, when most streets are about 58 feet wide, something's got to give. And, you know, it ain't going to be the shuttle Endeavour.
And it's going to take 2 days to go just 12 miles for an aircraft that has gone so fast and so far into space in the past, blasting off. It's going to move just inching along on the streets of Los Angeles. What a sight that is going to be. It's going to be the first time, really, that a space shuttle is brought through an urban area.
Dave Lopez is out at Edwards Air Force Base. We were checking in with him a few minutes ago. Dave, can you actually see it on approach yet?
Not yet, but we've moved much closer than where we were the last time we talked to you. Right behind me, you can see that number 3. Well, that's the edge of the runway. So we're less than we're pretty about a football field away. This is about as close as they're going to let us. A couple of other still photographers up there sneaked in. I don't know how they got around security on that. They must be with NASA. But this is where we are going to have the bird's eye view. And as you're looking off to the east, that is where the Endeavour is going to be coming in. We haven't been given a heads up. They told us we'd be getting a heads up. There was going to be a flyover. Is that it right now? Now I'm being told that that's it. Can you see it? Go ahead and pan over. You see the lights? I'm told that is a second flight. So it's behind it. So what I'm looking at, I'm getting instructions from men here who seem to know what they're talking about. So what we see there is what? What do we see right there, guys? What's coming in? That's a C-130 we're looking at right now. You can see the lights glistening on that, and behind that is going to be the 747 with Endeavour. That's what we are told. I don't have a monitor here, but I'm sure you can see the picture. It is going to be following very shortly. It must have done the flyover. They told us it would be touching down, or the flyover would be at 12:40. By my watch, it is exactly 12:40. And again, this is the C-130. That is the escort, I take it. And then right behind that is the 747, not in view yet, with Endeavour. I could see something over there in the horizon.
And Dave, we are now getting word from NASA that Endeavour is indeed on its final approach to Edwards Air Force Base on the back of that 747. We know that only the media and a few other people are allowed out there where you are today. The public was not invited. Just wondering if you can describe what's going on there.
Well, it's a very quiet scene. It's extremely hot, to say the least. It's got to be well over 100. These people obviously have seen the space shuttles land here before. When I was at the gate, there were a number of people from the public wanting to get in, but they simply could not. And as I'm talking, you can clearly see now the 747 with Endeavour on the back. I can see it with the naked eye right now. It really is a wonderful, magnificent sight. But the feeling I got here was one of real excitement. These people are veterans. They've been there, done that, if you will, but they know this is special. There's always something about the very last time. And I think what we're seeing now is the flyover. It certainly isn't coming in like it's going to be landing. So this is the flyover that we've been talking about. It's going to make a big loop over Lancaster and Rosamond as a salute. From where I'm looking, I can see it clear as a bell. I'm sure it's almost full screen on your picture there. But this is the Endeavour coming home. And to talk more about the feelings of these people, they're excited. They're very, very thrilled that this is coming home to Southern California. It was a long shot. A great long shot that Los Angeles was going to get this shuttle as a permanent home. Enterprise is in New York, Discovery's in Washington, D.C., Atlantis is going to be at the Kennedy Space Center. And when they put in a bid, if you will, I was told that they really thought, why not? We'll give it a shot. Long shots do come in. And this long shot did come in. And it's going to be landing. I don't know how long the flyover is going to take, but you can see it clearly. One big salute. I'm told that at one time there were 32,000 people that worked on this program. All of them, of course, did not live in this area, but a good many of them did. So they're here, giving it one final salute, if you will. 7 landings out here at Edwards before. So many interesting aspects, so many interesting facts about this giant bird, if you will. I was stunned to find out that there are actually 2.5 million parts to it. I know you were talking about the tiles. The entire fleet of the shuttles were designed to each fly 100 missions. Altogether, they flew 135 missions. The Endeavour, of course, was the last one built to take the place of the Challenger after that tragic explosion. It took 9 months on the assembly, 9 years on the assembly line from beginning to end. As you take a look at this magnificent site here in the desert, Endeavour is coming home, and people here everyone that I'm looking up and down the rows here. People, they're all looking up. They all have their binoculars. They all have their various cameras, and everyone's silent. You know, normally people are sitting there talking. I think I'm the only one talking here now, other than the other reporters down the row from me. But normally when you come to a place like this, people are talking to each other. They're whispering to each other. But nobody's doing that. They're all just looking. Staring, and here it looks like it's going to come right over my head. It must be a magnificent shot here. I'll just stay quiet and let you take a look at this and hear the noise. Here it is, Endeavour flying over Edwards Air Force Base on top of the 747.
You know,
Quite
I
a
think
sight.
it's so telling, Dave, that you were saying that people are just watching in silence. These are people who truly appreciate what they're seeing. They put the thing together and have been doing so for the last 30 years. You know, if you're younger than 30 or so years old, you've never lived in a time when there hasn't been a space shuttle, and it's always been a pretty routine deal. And Dave just quoted the initial plan of NASA to have each orbiter fly 100 times. NASA at the Kennedy Space Center used to tell me, well, we want these things to be as regular as a commercial flight taking off. And we all knew that was a bunch of baloney, because they really wanted the excitement to stay generated. No shuttle ever got close. Average number of flights about 25. But still, even though critics have said that this is a vehicle that didn't live up to its billing, even though it is a reusable spacecraft, it's not a one-shot deal like every other spacecraft before it. I remember going to a seminar one time in which a NASA guy said, you know, you people who say it's not living up to its hype, it's like you're complaining about the talking dog because he speaks with an accent. This was a pretty remarkable thing to have done, and NASA is the one agency that perhaps in all the world that actually gets applause for what it's done, for its bold steps. It's had missteps along the way, but you know, no one ever applauds the Department of Agriculture. And NASA, by comparison, certainly has had cheerleaders all over the world.
Well, NASA has an incredible PR machine that they continue to. I mean, look at this today. Here we are providing you wall-to-wall coverage of this event. They've done that right along from the first Mercury flights and until through this as well. By the way, we want to remind folks, I'll get to back out to you in just a couple of seconds here, Dave. I want to remind folks that if you have any photos, you're below the scene of this out there in the Palmdale, Lancaster area. You want to pass those photos along to us, streetteam@cbs.com, and we'll be sure to put your picture on the air. Let's go back out to Dave. How's it looking?
Yeah, I have Mr. Al Hoffman here with me as he looked at this. You can't take your eyes off of this. You were one of the originators. You were on the original team on this.
That's true. I was a manufacturing manager on the build of Endeavour, and then I was responsible for upgrades on it a few years ago. So
you take all the credit for the way it flies.
Well, my team and I, it was very much an effort more than mine.
I've been describing to people that normally people talk to each other, they look at each other, but everyone here is silent. You're gazing. I mean, you look like you're one proud bird.
Yeah, it's my baby. It was the first orbiter I actually became involved with, and I had worked on all of them since, but it has a special place in my heart. It's coming home finally to California, the birthplace of the orbiter fleet. This is where it belongs. Certainly one of them belongs. Endeavor's the one.
As you're looking at it now, what are your thoughts?
I'm excited. I'm proud. I'm thinking about days when I spent a lot of long hours with a lot of really good people on it, and I'm seeing now the opportunity here in the future to put it on display very proudly at the California Science Center and to inspire generations to come. And it gives me the opportunity, and those of us that worked on it, to show it off to our children, our grandchildren, families, friends, neighbors.
One of our anchors, Ken Shotnick, who's very knowledgeable in the program, was saying that NASA, especially the space shuttle program, really didn't get enough credit, didn't get all the credit they deserve. It was almost as though, so what, ho-hum. Did you get the feeling? The same feeling?
You know, I don't think everybody does fully realize how complex and how good a machine it really is. I mean, it's everything from a flying science laboratory to a UPS truck. It was instrumental in the building of the International Space Station. It brought Hubble Space Telescope on board, repaired it, and everybody knows the great science and images we're getting from Hubble. Fantastic machine, very complex machine, over 2 million parts on it. They all work just great. And here it is coming home. I mean, it's great.
You worked on it, you know it inside out, if you will. Are you going to stand in line when it's open to the public in October? You're going to get a free pass or a VIP treatment?
You know, I don't really know. I'll leave that to the California Science Center folks. We do have a group of Boeing engineers that are actually working with the California Science Center to make sure that we can display it very safely, especially when we take it vertical. We've worked with them already on the horizontal display, so we're working with them on the vertical display. So I intend to be in there maybe a little before some of the public. I certainly hope so anyway.
Right. Mr. Hoffman, I thank you. Thank you for all your work. You look like a man who's extremely proud. That smile on your face, we don't want to, we'd love to show the smile, but I think, you don't mind if we show Endeavour again instead of you?
You know, Endeavour is what it's all about today and tomorroe.
Okay, very good, sir. Thank you for the time. I appreciate it. Congratulations. Okay, who's your partner over here? We'll get a couple comments from here. Mr. Reisman, why don't you step? Mr. Reisman, how many times did you fly aboard the Endeavour?
On Endeavour, I just flew on her once, but she was my first.
She was your first.
My very first space mission I launched on Endeavour, And so she always has a special place in my heart.
Did you get the feeling when you were on that you were flying something like as big as a 5-story apartment unit?
Well, you know, 5-story apartment units don't usually pull about 3 Gs and accelerate in 8.5 minutes to 17,500 miles an hour. So you knew you were part of an enormous vehicle. And when you step out onto the launch pad and you stop and you look up at this vehicle that's fully fueled and creaking and moaning and about ready to blast you off the planet, it is an awesome sight.
When you flew the mission, what year was it?
That was 2008.
All right. Everything went well?
Everything, well, not entirely. I have a bit of a beef to pick with Endeavour.
Okay, what is that? Here it is.
On Ascent, she had 2 master alarms go off, and on that mission, I was downstairs in the middeck.
False alarm.
They were real alarms, but they were relatively minor.
Okay.
So I forgive her. I welcome her back to Southern California, and I'm over it.
So you didn't have to say, Houston, we got a problem.
No, that would have been a commander's job anyway.
Here, it's coming in now. I am going to just stay quiet, and here it comes. Endeavour coming home. Touchdown of the 747, Endeavour on top, and you have goosebumps.
I do. It's great to see her, and she looks like she can just leap off this runway, strap a couple solids to her, and an external tank, and get back to space.
What is it about this Endeavour? What is it about the fact that so many people are going to be gawking out in the streets tomorrow? They're going to be looking. What makes it so magical?
Well, it's an icon of American ingenuity. It's an icon of American engineering. It represents a whole era of really the best we had to offer in that regard. And I'm looking forward to the new era that's coming up, and that's what I'm working on now with a company called SpaceX in Southern California.
But it'll be nothing like the shuttle.
Well, in a lot of ways, you know, we hope it's better. We hope it's safer. And we also hope that it's more sustainable, cost-effective. We hope that this is the beginning of opening up space travel to more than just a couple of lucky guys that get to ride in the space shuttle. And only a few hundred people got to do that. We hope tens of thousands get to ride in space in the near future.
Sure. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your time.
My pleasure.
And congratulations, and thank you for sharing your moment with us.
My pleasure.
Very good. The shuttle has landed. I don't know, are we on me or are we on the NASA camera that shows it taxiing to the runway? It's going to take about 30-35 minutes, I'm told. Why don't I step on over here and see if I can still see it on the ground? From where I am, I don't see it anymore. I'm hoping the NASA camera can pick it up. But it's going to take about 30 to 35 minutes to taxi over to the NASA headquarters, if you will. And there we will talk to the flight crew, other people who are instrumental in this great moment here. And we will have a real close-up look for you later on in the afternoon on that. But I think it goes without saying, you were up close and personal to history coming to the desert.
All right, Dave, we're continuing to watch it as it taxis. Like you said, it's heading for the flight line area where it'll spend the night. Okay. We want to remind folks also that this is not the last touchdown we're going to see. It's going to take off tomorrow morning from Edwards there, and it is going to make, as we've been telling you, several flyovers around the Southern California area. It's going to head up north first and then end up here in Southern California and eventually LAX.
A lot of people wondering where they can see it. The excitement is building. A lot of places to see it tomorrow, including Venice, Santa Monica, the Getty Center, the Hollywood sign, Universal Studios, of course, the Jet Propulsion Lab there in Pasadena, downtown LA, its final home at the California Science Center, LAX, Long Beach, the aquarium, the Queen Mary, and then down to Huntington Beach. So it will be flying over a lot of the landmarks here in Southern California tomorrow. Interesting when we heard Dave Lopez talking to the gentleman, Al Hoffman, who worked on this shuttle, and you can tell, hearing these gentlemen's voices, that this is so much more than a job, or was so much more than a job for them, Ken. In fact, he called it my baby.
I thought that was so touching. And look at this. The crew of the jumbo jet has put an American flag outside the window. There are 4 guys inside, a pilot, co-pilot, 2 engineers. And they're trailing off from the black thermal protection tiles at the shuttle's nose, upper left portion of your screen. You can see there's some outer space streaks going down the shuttle side from the heat on re-entry. And it's just, It really is a piece of American ingenuity, as that astronaut said as well. I mean, a reusable space plane, just about all of the components except for the big bright orange external fuel tank, to be reused over and over again. I mean, what a phenomenal thing to have begun its life back in the 60s on the drawing boards, and now, half a century later, the era comes to a close, and I'm struck by the history that we are looking at right here, the final ever touchdown of a space shuttle at Edwards Air Force Base, an iconic landmark worldwide with so much in its own reputation, from the breaking of the sound barrier to the beginning and ending point of the Voyager round the world missions, and birthplace and takeoff point to Florida for all of the space shuttles. And now this is it. I mean, this is the last deal. There'll be the takeoff tomorrow, and then Edwards goes and looks at the future, but nothing like this is in the works right now, and it really is something that every school child will 50 years from now be able to tell his kids about and grandkids, and this was a big deal when it happened.
I was struck by the engineer that Dave was talking to there, how he called it his baby, as you mentioned, and it said, it looks like it could strap a couple of solids onto it, as though that's so easy to do.
Yeah. Big
Just
process.
another day at the office for him.
Yeah, back at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida, where they put on those big solid booster rockets, or SRBs, solid rocket boosters, and each of those were literally just huge giant firecrackers. Once you lit the fuse on those things, there was no turning them off. They were just basically big propellant casings, and they provided most of the thrust, even more than the space shuttle's main engines, to get the orbiter into space. The shuttle itself that we're looking at here on top of that 747 weighs about 100 tons or so.
Oh, that's not much then. Strap on a couple solids and there you go.
And there you go. And again, you look at it against the primeval desert behind it. It's just such a juxtaposition of images, and it's only something that you would see here in the United States of America. I'm telling you, this technology is just something that no one else could have ever dreamt of coming up with. It was built during the Cold War, and suddenly at one point the Soviet Union showed off its own space shuttle, which never really got anywhere, but darned if it didn't look really close to the American space shuttle fleet. And somebody wondered if there was somebody with a miniature camera who snuck in and took a couple of pictures of the blueprints. We were that far ahead of everyone else in the race for reusable spacecraft.
Boy, oh boy, look at that picture. It's I'm sure there was not a dry eye in the house for those folks who lived in that area and worked in that area. Some of the Rockwell technicians and engineers spent many years on this aircraft. Just amazing.
So we'll spend the day there at Edwards Air Force Base. We have takeoff again tomorrow, and eventually it will land at LAX, where they will move it into a hangar, a United Airlines hangar, to get it road ready for that 12-mile journey through the streets of Los Angeles. And I imagine, Kent, when they're moving it into the hangar, that's going to be a pretty precarious challenge as well.
Again, those thermal protection tiles are what they're going to be watching out for, because they are so delicate. Wouldn't it be nice if the California Science Center had some sample tiles so that the public could touch them? Like I say, they're about the size of a real brick or a carton of cigarettes, but they weigh just a fraction, just a featherweight light foam. It's why the shuttle had the nickname the Flying Brickyard, because it was covered in those tiles, and also, frankly, it dropped like a brick. If your commercial airliner descends to an airport at 1 foot down for every 22 feet forward, the shuttle dropped down 1 foot for every 4 feet forward. It was a real roller coaster ride.
Each of those tiles specifically designed for where it will fit on the orbiter itself. Each of those tiles was cut differently than the one previous. Each of those tiles had its own serial number. A lot of detail, a lot of effort going into all that.
I was also struck by Al Hoffman saying that this really is a remarkable piece of machinery, because it's everything from a science lab to a flying UPS truck. We know that it made deliveries to the space station, made the initial delivery to the space station, in fact.
The payload cargo bay in the back could literally hold a Greyhound bus. It could hold 65,000 pounds worth of payload. And there were those times when NASA would launch a space shuttle and just say, this is a classified military flight, no further details will be provided. And everybody knew that they were launching a spy satellite for the military, for the Pentagon, and some huge spy satellites. The joke used to be that they could read a license plate. Well, now you can see that from Google Earth. But the satellites that they launched were huge in those days, and not to be the case any longer. It's over.
Those folks viewing us on CBS 2, we want to remind you that we're going to turn you back to regular programming at this hour, but we will certainly continue to bring you updates on what's happening with the Space Shuttle Endeavour throughout the day here. find out all of our newscasts. And of course, tomorrow we have a lot of coverage.
Yes, we want to remind folks, if you have videos or pictures, you can send them to streetteam@cbs.com if you have pictures of the shuttle Endeavour returning to Los Angeles. On CBS, we now return you to the talk.
And if you're watching us here on KCAL9, we're going to continue to bring you these beautiful pictures here at Edwards Air Force Base. It's approaching the flight line area there now, base operations there at Edwards, where most of the military folks, it's kind of moving from a NASA-only area into the area where of the base where kind of the day-to-day operations. You see most of the cargo planes parked there. I'm not sure, Ken, have you heard whether it's actually going to be hangared tonight? It's such a big aircraft. I don't know that there's anything big enough to house it.
No, they're going to keep it on top of the 747. Edwards is where the big crane is that lifts shuttles on to the top of the 747 for the days when they would ferry them back to the Kennedy Space Center. And you're looking at a hangar in the background. You know, Dave, you're as good with spatial orientation as I am, probably better. It looks like it would fit in there, but they're not going to be removing one from the other.